I just want to welcome all of you here this morning. What a turnout. It's extraordinary. It's probably the largest one we've had in a long time. Let me just begin by just acknowledging, I heard the good news just recently. Our good friend, Dusty Rhodes, has been nominated to receive a very distinguished Bostonian Award from the Chamber of Commerce. My only response when I heard that is long overdue. One of the first female CEOs in this wonderful city of ours, and has done a great job for so many of us, so congratulations to her. As you can tell, I brought some musicians here this morning. We're very proud to welcome middle school youth from the Boston Music Project. Boston Music Project is a proud partner of the City of Boston and PBS. And each year they provide over 2,100 youth with weekly music education and social emotional learning across 23 Boston Public School sites, with a team of 56 talented teaching assistants. Additionally, through the mayor's successful Link program, they hire Boston youth over the summer to record an album and produce live concerts and connect with industry professionals. One of the reasons Boston is a great city is what the mayor had just announced this program, and these extraordinarily talented musicians are now about to perform. I'm sure you'll be hearing more from these musicians when they're at the Boston Symphony Orchestra, and you can say, I remember them when. Well, welcome, and thank you all for being here this morning. Needless to say, we're thrilled beyond that so many of you could join us here for today's program. I'd like to begin by thanking Northeastern University for generously sponsoring today's program. Northeastern is a very long-time member of the New England Council. It's always been incredibly active in our events and our policy work. I'm very proud to be a long-time employer partner with the university in our co-op program. We have employed over 100 co-ops from Northeastern University, both here and in Washington. In particular, I'd like to recognize a good friend, John Tobin, the Vice President of City and Community Engagement, who, like our guest speaker today, is a former member of the Boston City Council. 2024 has gotten off to an incredible start here at the New England Council, and we have some great events planned in the coming weeks. In April, we're looking forward to events with Governor Chris Sununu in Manchester, New Hampshire, Congressman Jim McGovern in Washington, D.C., and Senator Angus King in Portland. We also have two very special issue-focused programs planned in April, a regional energy forum featuring ISO New England CEO, who will talk about the outlook on energy in New England in the very near future, and a New England Innovates program looking at research and development to treat rare diseases, featuring a keynote remarks from Congressman Jake Auchincloss on April 23rd. And believe it or not, we're just 2 months away from 2024 Washington Leaders Conference, and we have a great agenda already planned, and we hope that many of you will join us for a very busy and a very informative 2 days in our nation's capital. As always, you can find more details and register for any of these events on our website, newenglandcouncil.com, or by using the QR code on your table to pull up our latest events in our calendar. I also wanted to take a quick note to highlight a new initiative here at the New England Council. In January, we launched the Rising Stars Network for young professionals. I've been told that I'm not rising, I'm not a star. But I'm a fan, I'm a booster, and I'm a supporter. And we had an event at John Hancock and hosted also with American Tower, and it was just a fantastic opportunity for networking for so many of our young leaders here in the greater Boston area. And yesterday we held the first Guiding Stars mentoring roundtable with our board member Becca Gould of American Tower. Any of the young leaders here interested to know more about it, Mariah Healy is here, as well as Ashley Locken from the New England Council. It's a great way to meet people and to support each other on our journey as you work through the workforce here. We're looking forward to continuing this exciting new initiative and have more networking and mentoring programs planned in the months ahead. And if you're interested in learning more, as I said, you can talk to our great staff here. Today, we're delighted to welcome back the mayor of this great city, Michelle Wu, for her second appearance before the New England Council, to share with us her vision and priorities for continued economic growth here in this wonderful city. But to introduce the mayor, I'm very pleased to welcome a very special guest to the stage. Katie McLaughlin is a third-year student at the College of Health Sciences at Northeastern University. She's from the Allston-Brighton neighborhood of Boston, and her parents are from Ireland. In fact, the mother is from Mayo and the father is from Donegal. And they are immigrants here in Boston, which makes the city so wonderful. And I thought it was very appropriate, St. Patrick's Week, to have Katie here to do the introduction. But she also was a volunteer on the mayor's campaign, and we're delighted to welcome her this morning to introduce the mayor.
It is an honor to be here today introducing Mayor Wu. She's a true inspiration to me and countless other young people working to make a life for ourselves. I am inspired by her perseverance, her authenticity, her passion for public health, and so much more. I grew up in the Brighton neighborhood of Boston and was valedictorian of my class at Boston Collegiate over in Dorchester. Thanks to the Boston Public School Valedictorian Scholarship Program, I've been able to attend Northeastern University. With the help of my incredible support system at Northeastern and beyond, I've had the chance to study global public health in Berlin, Germany, travel to Guatemala and Honduras with Northeastern University Global Medical Brigades, where we set up free medical clinics in rural communities, assist with research concerning the impact of lifestyle factors on cognitive performance, and explore my passion for healthcare at Boston's world-class medical institutions. I'm a patient care associate at Massachusetts General Hospital and an emergency medical technician for Cataldo Ambulance, and will soon be an emergency service assistant in the Brigham and Women's Emergency Department. I am beyond grateful for the partnership between Northeastern and the City of Boston that has allowed me access to so many incredible opportunities. Boston and Northeastern work together to take care of their own. My interest in healthcare stems from my passion for health and desire to help other people. Mayor Wu has honorably built a career in government. Though our paths look very different on the outside, our endeavors are fueled by the same thing, a passion for public service. I admire Mayor Wu and her commitment to our city, and am fortunate to have such an example. I also find it valuable to note that this example Mayor Wu has set for so many directly relates to her identity as the daughter of immigrants. As a proud daughter of 2 Irish immigrants myself, who are actually here in the audience today, it is beyond motivating to see Mayor Wu representing our city. Northeastern also places great emphasis on the significance of global perspective and the strength of diversity. Mayor Wu and Northeastern symbolize the beacon of welcoming that the city of Boston stands for. I could not be more proud to be from this city, as well as a part of the Northeastern community. I'm very excited to hear what Mayor Wu has to share. Please join me in extending a very warm welcome to Mayor Michelle Wu. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Katie. Thank you for everything that you're doing, so much that you're doing. And it's wonderful to see you here. I'm so grateful to your family, the community that's raised you, and we're just so lucky to have leaders in our city who are so determined and so ready to take on the challenges ahead of us, thanks to investment from our partner and anchor institutions like Northeastern who pour into the next generation. So I know it sounds like you are kind of on a track at Brigham and Women's, but the City of Boston's hiring too. We have a Public Health Commission, so let's talk. And I'm so grateful to everyone for taking the time to be here this morning. Thank you to Jim and everyone at the New England Council for all of your leadership and for inviting me in. So this is the second year. Last year, I did this the week after the State of the City speech. This year, I'm doing it days before probably the most stressful event of the year for me, the St. Patrick's Day roast. So I didn't know if that was a signal. I have to like lighten it up or up here or something. And I look for it. I will be ready for Jim's event on Saturday too, the St. Patrick's Day breakfast in Dorchester, which is an important way to raise funds for the organization that you have been leading for such a long time around the Marianne Brett Food Pantry. So we're so grateful for all that you do in addition to the leadership that you coordinate here. I'm grateful to the entire board and from our board chair, John, who also does double duty like Jim. John does double duty as well, and he serves on our Boston Public Library Board of Trustees, and to the entire membership of the New England Council. I'm thankful for our city staff who are in the room too. There are a number of folks who I think we're at a table right here. Thank you to all of our city team members and so many of our cabinet chiefs who are in the house. Chief of Staff Tiffany Chu, Chief of Policy Mike Firestone, Chief of Economic Opportunity and Inclusion Shagun Idawu, Chief of Worker Empowerment Trin Nguyen, our Senior Advisor for Labor Lou Mandarini, Senior Advisor for Partnerships Stephen Chan, Director of Stakeholder Engagement Mohammed Missouri, all of their teams, And a special shout out as well. I saw our vice chair of the Boston School Committee, Michael O'Neill, here. Thank you for your leadership and all that you do for our young people in our city. So looking around this room and seeing representatives and leaders from the major employers across our region who are building our city, who are educating the next generation, who are curing cancer and saving lives and creating jobs, I'm reminded of how much work it truly takes in collaboration to keep this region going and to keep us at the forefront of what progress looks like. We've celebrated some big wins as a city and a region since the last time we were together, last February. In the fall, the CDC announced that it would be awarding major funds to Northeastern to create an infectious disease prediction center. Maybe they sent Katie up to advocate and then it was just done. That $17.5 million investment is in addition to $1.5 billion from the CHIPS and Science Act to study next-gen wireless networks across the whole region. Additionally, we celebrated downtown as State Street became our next-door neighbors, opening their doors at their new headquarters. We joined the governor's office, Millennium Partners, and MIT for the dedication of Winthrop Center, which is the biggest passive house certified building in the world. With the help of so many leaders in this room, we exceeded our youth summer jobs goal last year. And this year, we are determined to shatter that recent record with a new guarantee for a summer job to any BPS student who wants one. And we'll need the help of everyone in this room to make that happen. So thank you to some of our most recent boosters in that effort: Liberty Mutual, Eastern Bank, National Grid, Blue Cross Blue Shield. Thank you for stepping up your commitment. We have some work to do to make sure we have all the jobs available, but this is one of the most impactful ways that we are building community in our city. A couple other wins I want to highlight. In partnership with Mass General Brigham, the Boston Public Schools received its largest ever grant, $38 million from Bloomberg Philanthropies, to double the size of our health careers focused high school, the Edward M. Kennedy Academy, for those direct pathways into jobs. We also signed a first of its kind agreement between the BCLA McCormick High School in Dorchester and their neighbor, UMass Boston, to form the city's first university-assisted community hub school. I saw UMass Boston in the house as well. Last month, thanks to a groundbreaking partnership with leadership from our cultural institutions at the MFA, the ICA, the Children's Museum, Museum of Science, the Aquarium, and the Zoo, we launched our BPS Sundays program, which for the first time ever opens doors for free on the first and second Sundays for our Boston Public School students and their families. And I recently had the pleasure of joining Vertex CEO Reshma Kewalramani and MassBio's CEO Kendall Berlin O'Connell in the Seaport to announce an almost $5 million investment as part of Boston's Life Sciences Workforce Initiative to train and place Boston residents in life sciences jobs. 2 weeks ago, one of our grantees, BioVersity, just graduated their first class of trainees from their center at the South Line in Dorchester. And just a couple days ago, I joined Dr. Aisha Francis and the leaders from Mass Development and the Liberty Mutual Foundation and the state to break ground on the brand new campus for the Benjamin Franklin Cummings Institute of Technology in Nubian Square. It's not only a watershed moment for the future of our city and to see the momentum building in all of our neighborhoods and right in the heart of our city in Roxbury, but it's also a testament to what's possible when public, private, philanthropy all come together. The math behind that term sheet is quite significant, and I know many folks in this room came together to make that possible. And it shows what is possible when all of our sectors are on the same page. Our regional progress continues to build as we continue to collaborate. Last year, I shared some context as well on the broader trends we were watching in City Hall, and today I'll give a little bit of an update. This time last year, Boston's unemployment rate was around 2.9%, back at roughly pre-pandemic levels, but our workforce numbers were still more than 200,000 short of where they were in February of 2020, a loss of more than 2.5%. We were seeing steady recovery in the hospitality industry and others that were hit hardest by the pandemic, alongside gains in healthcare and professional services, and rapid growth in innovation in life sciences. Today, our unemployment numbers are still substantially lower than state and federal levels, and our regional workforce has also made a comeback. We're now under 100,000 people short of where we were in February of 2020. In other words, over the past year, just less than 12 months, we've closed more than half of that post-pandemic gap in our workforce participation. Relative to 2019, Boston's payroll employment is up 4% in professional and financial services, and in healthcare and education, and 5% in production, construction, and logistics. We continue to lead the nation in commuter rail ridership recovery levels, with today's ridership numbers at more than 80% of pre-pandemic levels. That's nearly 20% year-over-year growth compared to last year. And it parallels what we hear anecdotally and what our friends at the Downtown Business Improvement District are measuring carefully. They're seeing steadily growing foot traffic downtown. We have a lot of work to do, but our retail vacancy rate is down from where it was this time last year. And downtown specifically, the number of vacant storefronts has declined by nearly 17% in the last year. A big part of that has been a boom in the food scene. There are more restaurants open today in the downtown bid district than before the pandemic, with 3 more opening this month on Temple Place. All this aligns with the latest Business Confidence Index released by the Associated Industries of Massachusetts on March 1st, which registered its 3rd consecutive month of improvement and 14-month high in terms of business confidence. So I share all of this not to say that we should be getting comfortable, but instead to share my deep gratitude for the partnership in recognizing the immense amount of work that everyone in this room knows has gone into getting us to where we are today. And we can't afford to let up. There are still clear and present challenges. In particular, we know that downtown commercial property values continue to be a point of concern and one that the city is looking to be able to use every tool to address. We've been having conversations with property owners, business leaders, and continue to plan out all of the appropriate steps ahead to mitigate impact on residents and businesses while maintaining the vibrancy that defines our city. Our mission is clear. We need to make Boston a city where people want to be and can afford to stay. And good jobs, the kind of high-paying, high-impact jobs that the organizations in this room offer, are a key part of that. But they're not the only part. Having a competitive benefits package and exceptional office culture must be matched by an excitement to build not just your career here, but your life and your family here. And so I want to share a little bit also about what we've been doing and continue to do to make Boston the best choice for families, for workers, and for young people in today's changing professional landscape. I want to start with the top concern, as everyone knows, housing, housing, housing. You all might have seen the report that our friends at the Chambers Foundation published earlier this week that showed about a quarter of 20 to 30-year-olds surveyed said that they plan to leave Greater Boston within the next 5 years. Of the top 3 concerns they named that factored into that decision, one was the cost of rent, and another was the ability to buy a home. We know that we can't have a serious, productive conversation about housing in Boston without getting to the roots of the city's role in that, which is zoning. Our zoning code is a mess. It's dense, it's confusing, it's outdated, and it actively impedes our ability to plan and develop in ways that meet our community's growing needs. So, under the leadership of our Chief of Planning, Arthur Jemison, and his entire team, they've launched the Squares and Streets Initiative, and that is the first citywide major rezoning effort since 1965, comprehensively. Later today, the BPDA board will be reviewing an amendment proposing 5 new distinct zoning types, which, when approved, will provide communities with the first set of new options to consider as we make plans to create more housing that's needed in walkable neighborhoods urgently. Updating our zoning code in neighborhood commercial districts will also have the dual benefit of mitigating impacts on climate and congestion, ensuring that residents have easy access to the resources they need where they live. Most importantly, this zoning will encourage the responsible growth of more residential space and more diverse amenities in our neighborhoods. More than 200 people attended the launch events in our first 2 neighborhoods to share their vision for the future of these areas. And our city planners are now being embedded in those communities to engage in ongoing opportunities for feedback and planning. This is our first model in how we plan for Boston's future, with upfront timelines, transparent processes, and active and inclusive community engagement. I also wanted to share a quick update on the 2 office to residential conversions that are furthest along in the pipeline of this new program designed to really help transform and invest in downtown. 281 Franklin will be considered for approval at tonight's BPDA board meeting. That's an office that, when converted, will create 15 units of housing. The second is 85 Devonshire, which is making its way through the Article 80 process and includes the buildings at 258 and 262 Washington Street, which will total 95 units of housing. There are more in the pipeline as well, but as we continue to make our way step by step, it's important to mark the progress that we're making and to be able to keep demonstrating that we can innovate and we can create new programs to tackle what feel like deeply embedded challenges. Taken together, these 2 projects will create 110 new units of housing in downtown Boston that will begin construction this summer. After only 5 months since launching this program, we already have 8 building conversions in the pipeline, which will mean hundreds of new residents calling downtown Boston home. A win-win to bring more people excited to support our downtown businesses and helping to stabilize the market for our downtown offices. Another recent development that we're very excited about is what's happening with Quincy Market. The J. Saffer Group is the new ownership that's been announced. They have $300 billion in assets and own iconic properties around major cities worldwide. And for the first time in a long time, we have a real opportunity to reimagine Quincy Market as an exciting, authentically Boston space, all of Boston space, that recaptures the local spirit so many of us remember while embracing the unique energy of Boston today. In spite of its challenges in recent years, the marketplace is still consistently listed among the most popular tourist sites in the country. And while nearby treasures like the Rose Kennedy Greenway and the Boston Public Market are redefining the downtown experience for residents, workers, and visitors with diverse local programming, we haven't had the same opportunity yet at Quincy Market as a powerful draw and driver of downtown recovery. For so many around the world, and for so many in our neighborhoods, that is the ultimate symbol of what Boston represents. It might be the first that they learn of our city. And so we need to ensure that this is a place that draws people in and represents the full diversity of our neighborhood businesses and our cultures and communities in Boston. With this space under new ownership, our administration is committed to building the next chapter for this iconic urban marketplace, and we're looking forward to partnering with our business community to bring that vision to life. Now, in the same way that we can't talk about housing without talking about zoning, we can't have a meaningful conversation about downtown without talking about our transportation system. Last time I was here, I asked for your continued partnership and support in prioritizing public transit as a critical issue for our region. And I promised that our administration wouldn't rest in our demand for representation for Boston in the form of a direct voice on the governing board. Today, I owe you all a thank you on that front for our great progress and an update. Since receiving that official board seat through legislation at the state level and support from the governor's office and much advocacy from our community partners, Mary Skelton Roberts has been representing the city of Boston and our commuters. She's begun a listening tour with community members and riders to be able to directly represent the reality of what is happening on the ground. She's joined our administration in advocating for greater fare equity for the commuter rail, making the case for transit access for lower income riders. She's been instrumental in ensuring Boston's voice has been heard in the numerous diversion processes as we work with the MBTA to prioritize fixing tracks and getting caught up on infrastructure needs. And she's worked closely regionally with leaders in Cambridge and Somerville to highlight the importance of municipal collaboration and state and local partnership to create a transit system that works for all of us. I've also been getting in on the fun as well. I've started a Commute With Me series where residents can reach out and invite me to commute alongside them from wherever they're starting their journey early in the morning to get to wherever they're starting their workday. and it's been quite a ride experiencing. The next one to come out has me hiking up a steep embankment because the bus drops you off far from where the next stop is. But it shows not only the challenges that we have ahead of us, the many, many needs that big picture we have to address and prioritize, but it also shows the wide diversity of our residents who make up Boston, who make our city run, who rely on public transit, and who are using it every single day right now, that there are great bright spots and so much more potential if we can really get everyone on the same page. So I'm so grateful for Phil Eng's leadership, for the governor's partnership, our MassDOT Secretary of Transportation, Monica Tibbetts-Nutt. This is the driving issue that will connect our housing and economic development and climate goals. Finally, I just want to talk a little bit about childcare. For working parents in the room, or for those who've been through this stage of life, we know how big of a difference it makes to have childcare that's trusted and high quality, affordable, and close to home or work. And we know usually you only get to pick some of that list, not all of those attributes. That's why since last summer, the City of Boston has added 300 universal pre-K spots, launched more than 40 new family childcare businesses, passed zoning to allow childcare centers across the city as of right, and provided training to 100 family childcare centers in marketing, communications, and business to make sure the seats that are already there are actually accessible and known to those families who need them. To make it easier than ever to find care options for our children from birth to when they're ready for school, we are launching a platform later this month where parents and caretakers will be able to enroll in childcare and search for providers by distance, size, and whether the program is dual language. With more than 800 providers listed in one place for the very first time, along with their websites, hours of operation, whether they accept vouchers, this will be a one-stop shop for working parents to find the right childcare for their needs and enroll just in one place. And next January, we're going to expand that platform to include BPS enrollment as well. We've heard, I know you don't believe it. I hear you don't believe it yet. I mean, raise your hand if you've been through the process of doing the search, making the list, calling place after place after place to see if they have openings for the right age. We know that just as we're fixing permitting for real estate development and that can be a huge chunk of the finances and the stress and the unpredictability, this is another way that's going to affect every single working family, and I'm so grateful for all of our childcare providers for going above and beyond to make this happen with us. We know that there are a lot of big challenges ahead of us. We must tackle the housing crisis so families and residents can put down roots in the communities they love. We know we must reshape our downtown mix for the right mix of commercial and residential to get at the vibrancy and foot traffic that's needed. We know we must take an urgent approach to investing in our public transit system and transportation system overall to ensure that Boston continues to be that regional hub for all of New England. But we've also shown that together we can take meaningful steps to address these challenges. With effective public-private partnerships, with creativity in our funding models, with advocacy, collaboration, we can break down barriers for new and innovative ways to be that model for the world, so that more young people, just like Katie, can get out there to Guatemala and Honduras and bring their talents and experiences right back here to help us build the city we all know is possible. So thank you so much for all that you do. Look forward to hearing your questions.
We have a couple of minutes for questions. I have them here. We only have a couple of minutes for questions, and some of you are kind enough to suggest some questions for me to ask the mayor. One of your highlight initiatives is transportation. I'm reading in New York Times that they're talking about congestion pricing coming to New York City maybe later this year. They're going to charge, I think, $15 to enter into South Manhattan between 5 a.m. and 9. Is this something that your administration might look at down the road?
So there actually is I think it's a hearing order moving through the city council specifically on congestion pricing. So it's already in the public debate. But I think what's important to note about this is that congestion pricing can mean any number of very different models. It could mean a border drawn right around kind of the close downtown area with a charge to enter there. It could mean a border around a city boundary or more toll-like systems like we have on some of the interstate, for example. But the key about congestion pricing is really understanding what the goal of it is. And there's a couple ways you can use it. One is just to purely generate revenue, right? We need revenue from somewhere. The gas tax is not providing what it used to, and certainly with the conversion to more, and encouragement and need to shift to more electric vehicles, the gas tax itself is going to become less and less of that economic driver. So there's a pure sort of where do we find the revenue question to have the MBTA be able to make the changes that they need, and all sorts of cities and towns that have their own transportation infrastructure. There's another goal that's laid out sometimes with congestion pricing of shifting behavior, right? Pushing people, if it becomes more expensive to drive, then let's have people do the more sustainable thing of taking public transportation. However, that depends on having a reliable alternative to shift to. And so it's a very different possible policy conversation depending on what state the MBTA is in and how reliable, especially our regional public transit on commuter rail is into the city. So I think, depending on what model we're talking about and what time frame we're talking about, it really has to be paired with clear connection to ensuring that reliable alternative. Otherwise, it becomes just a pure revenue generating model that then sits on those who can least afford to pay it, because those who often are in higher income jobs are often more able to work from home remotely and not have to come in every single day during those hours that the congestion pricing might be on. And so it can be somewhat regressive if there is not that alternative. So there's a number of pieces to this, but I say we need to be having the conversation now about every possible tool in the toolbox to improve our transportation system, to generate the resources that we need, and also to generate the urgency to keep building the systems that we deserve.
Can't leave without a real estate question. Boston Policy Institute honed in on how the pandemic era shift to hybrid and remote work has left some buildings largely vacant, leading to declining office values and commercial real estate prices. Can you talk more about the report? I'm sure you and your staff have really digested, but there are some people that indicate in the report that a rain cloud is about to appear in the sky, and by the year 2029, we could possibly be losing 10% of our tax base, almost $500 million, and that people will be leading towards more abatements to offset their lower value on the property.
So I'm going to start with the long term here, which is that Boston is very lucky in some ways, where our economy rests on a diversity of industries. We're not just a one company town, or not even just a one industry town, but we have really the mix that is the envy of so many other places around the country. And many of these industries tend to be places where you also have to be in person more often than not, whether it's healthcare or life sciences or some of the mix. And I know many of our largest employers are finding ways to work with their employees to encourage more in-person work as well, for the collaboration and the benefits that brings for workplace culture. And we have to do our part, again, with the infrastructure on transportation, childcare, and housing to make that possible. But in the immediate, as we're trying to shift that and just kind of prevent this from being a trend that Boston sees happening for, in perpetuity, but that we'll really be able to target our efforts downtown and rethink and therefore reshape the financial situation. In the short term, while we're taking those actions, it will have an impact in terms of how we think about our tax base. It is slightly different, though, than how that report envisioned. The way that tax laws are structured for every city in Massachusetts is that the tax revenue that's capped at 2.5% increase year over year is split between residential and commercial. But what happens when one side of the equation goes down or up is not that the entire amount goes down. It's just that it shifts over to the other side. And so what we're really talking about with the potential risk, if there is a dramatic drop in commercial property values downtown, and therefore a drop in the amount of revenue that would come in holding that at the same tax rate, is that the rates shift, and we're worried that that could actually impact the residential rate significantly. And so this is less, in some ways less about, in the short term, less about the city's tax revenue collection and more about protecting residents from a shock that could come from a very significant change to the residential tax rate if commercial tax rates are in flux as well. Now there are tools, and the city has been in positions like this before, where in previous years there was several decades ago, there was a moment when residential values were rising way faster than commercial values. And again, there was that was having an impact on how the balancing then took place and the rates that our residential property owners or taxpayers were able to absorb in terms of a year-over-year shift. And with special legislation, it is possible to have the tools to smooth that out a little bit. So we are exploring with some of the largest property owners and those on the residential and the commercial side what that would look like, what the impacts would be, and we want to be ahead of the curve this time. Several decades ago, when there was a challenge like this, the city did not realize until after all of the property value assessments were done in that revaluation cycle. By that time, the legislature was already out of session for the summer because this was later in the calendar year. And so that year, in fact, 2 tax bills went out to every property owner in the mail. One saying this will be what you pay if this special tool does happen, one if this is what you pay if the special tool doesn't happen. We want to not be in that situation at all. And so we're going to seek to be ahead of the curve in being proactively and preventatively obtaining the tools and authorities that might be necessary in that case. But again, the big picture here is that we don't want to just be saving ourselves and trying to mitigate and put Band-Aids on the challenges of a downtown that is struggling. We want to strengthen our downtown, and there are many efforts that we can collectively engage in and that we can keep building on.
City Councilor Ed Flynn indicated that he'd like to propose a blue ribbon commission just to do what you're talking about, bring together the business communities, city officials, state officials, as well as developers to find ways of filling every building. Is that something you'd support, a blue ribbon commission?
Yeah, in fact, there was already an incredible group that helped over the course of several months, where the Boston Consulting Group came in and worked with the City of Boston to produce a full report on ideas and recommendations for downtown. So in some ways we have that blueprint already. It includes thinking about Faneuil Marketplace, or Quincy Market and Faneuil Hall. It includes thinking about office to residential conversions, about events and activation, transportation. So a lot of this we are already working on with partners. And I think it's just about taking each of these initiatives to the next level in many of these cases. But we will continue seeking that partnership and need to keep defining the next milestones that we should hit.
And then your thoughts on imposing the 2%, the big ticket for real estate transactions to create more affordable housing?
Yeah. So the transfer fee, which would be a 2% fee added on at the moment of sale to in Boston, our proposal is to transactions over $2 million, that would generate effectively the city's current funding that is sunsetting with the federal funds that are now expiring that had come from the American Rescue Plan and others. With those funds in hand, we had been able to produce hundreds and hundreds of units of affordable housing all throughout our neighborhoods. We've been able to provide gap financing for private developments that we're looking to move through. We've been able to acquire in new and innovative ways housing, market housing that then can be permanently protected for those tenants and remain affordable. So we've been able to show that having the resources to intervene and to partner with the private sector goes a long, long way. Now, I know it's a very difficult time to be talking about any more burden or process on the real estate side with interest rates at a 22-year high. The governor and the state and the city have been working very closely, and the governor in her housing bond bill also included this transfer fee provision, because in the long run, in order to address our tax base concerns, in order to generate more foot traffic for our small businesses, in order to retain employees and talent in our city, we need to have that housing available. And in this macroeconomic climate, it's going to take interventions at the city level and the state level to move that ahead. And so we really, we stand with the governor in wanting to make sure that this is available as a tool to be used where appropriate, and to also recognize that, again, ultimately we need to be growing our tax base as a whole, and the city is working on every possible mechanism to do so, especially to produce more housing. I will mention also, do you have more questions, Jim?
No, that's fine.
Okay, I will mention, I don't want to preempt our host here. There are other ways that some of the resources that have been available to the city and some of the partnerships that we've identified are getting to that mix of making Boston the place where you not only want to work, but also live, play, enjoy, be at home. I can't leave here without giving a big plug and highlight to our White Stadium project and the plans that are there. This is the jewel of Boston, Franklin Park, our largest green space, designed by world-famous grandfather of landscape architecture, Frederick Law Olmsted. And we have a stadium that is the Boston Public Schools Student Athletics Hub that has been there since 1949, but really hasn't been maintained or invested in much since then. Since a fire in the 1980s, half of the 10,000-seat stadium has been unusable, and the city has not had the funds to rebuild that. We have 119 school buildings that draw from the same capital budget, and the vast majority of those buildings are pre-World War II structures that also need a major rebuild. And it's difficult for any administration when deciding between putting money to a new school building or putting money to fix a new stadium. You see where the money has always gone, and probably rightly so when dollars are stretched. In this case, we have the blessing to be partnering with the Boston Unity Soccer Ownership Group to host what will be the newest National Women's Soccer League professional soccer team that will be the first professional sports team in the country to play out of a home owned by a public school district. Not only is it important for our championship city to have professional women's sports teams bringing championships home and serving as the role models for our young people, but this is a partnership that would not only help us rebuild the stadium finally to what our young people deserve, new locker rooms, new training facilities, student study space, but it would also provide the annual resources to sustain that from here on forward. And so I know there's sometimes a little bit of confusion out there about whether White Stadium's usage is all of a sudden going to be taken over by a professional team. And in fact, it is the opposite, that we have, again, remarkably, a team, all women-owned, all wanting to make a difference in our city, saying, we want to invest with you, and they will end up making up less than 10% of the stadium's total usage hours. Boston Public School student hours will more than triple at that facility for soccer, for track. Football will also remain there and play as many or even more hours than they have, given the structure of what's being worked out. And we have a chance to then have the resources to sustain the larger Franklin Park area for decades to come. So I would just, we're going to need your help in a bit of a capital campaign, and we're trying to also have a booster fund so that student athletics finally has the resources they deserve for all of our sports teams. But this will have generational impact. We know that young people choose where they go to school based on not just what mom and dad talk about with the quality of education, but also what sports are available, what amenities are there, what job tracks and career opportunities are there where they're ready to get on with their lives and do real things. This will help anchor so many families in Boston for decades to come, and I'm so grateful to all of you who are involved with the effort and who are partnering with us to make it happen.
Well, I just want to I think it's a great way to end the program, announcing something very positive. I also say on the real estate area, there is growth in the property tax because you got Winthrop Square, you got one Congress, and you got one Post Office Square, all coming on board, so there'll be new revenue generated for the city of Boston. I have lots more questions, but her time is very limited, and I thought we'd spend a few minutes that we have. If you want a picture with the mayor or myself, I'll stay, but she's on a tight schedule, so if you want a picture, come right up. But I want to thank the mayor. She's got a lot on her plate, but obviously she's in control. She's got the pulse on every issue that the city is facing, and she's hitting a home run after home run, and we wish her much success, and the business community here joins with her and giving her advice and support.
I need luck for this weekend.
And then she needs luck for this weekend. She said, I'd rather have a root canal than go to the South Boston, St. Patrick's Day. But Saturday morning, you'll be greeted with the grace and the respect that you deserve. And then we'll put the fork in and give it. But no. We look forward. But thank you for all that you do for the city. Quick picture.